Hello, and thank you for joining us once again. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Abilene Interfaith Council has decided to suspend in-person gatherings where we would normally invite guest speakers to talk about a multitude of interfaith topics. Therefore, in lieu of those meetings, we have decided to conduct interviews with prominent religious figures here in Abilene, as well as take tours of houses of worship. Good evening, I'm Pierce Lopachin, and today I'm joined with Marc Orner, who is a part of Temple Mizpah.
My name is Marc Orner. Professionally, I'm Dr. Marc Orner. I have a PhD in counseling psychology from the University of New Mexico. I've been in Abilene, Texas since 1983. My practice is called Abilene Professional Center. It's been my practice since 1986. I specialize primarily in marriage and family, so I see myself more as a marriage and family therapist. Do a lot of work with teenagers and also a lot of work with PTSD. I came here from Santa Fe, New Mexico, as I was telling Pierce before. Prior to that, I did a postdoctoral fellowship at Albert Einstein College of Medicine at Jacobi Hospital. And I practiced in New York for 2.5 years. And as I said, I went to University of New Mexico, fell in love with the Southwest, came back as fast as I could. And I've been in Abilene since 1983. And even though I was born and raised in a big city and lived in Albuquerque and Santa Fe, I really like Abilene. I've met some wonderful people in Abilene. I've had some negative experiences as well, but the positive more than outweighs the negative. This has been an excellent experience of 37 years of my life.
Now, I'm going to ask you an obvious question, and it's going to be one of those things that's just probably very known to us, but to our viewers at home that might not know, what is the difference between Christianity and Judaism?
We don't have 50 years for me to go into that.
I know. In 5 seconds. Do it in 5 seconds.
In 5 seconds.
Yeah.
I think one of the easiest ways to say that is that we as Jews do not see Jesus Christ as the Son of God. We perceive Jesus to be a great prophet, because Jesus has always been and always will be Jewish, as he himself said he's Jewish. So we don't say that I think in a nutshell, that would be the most significant difference between Christianity and Judaism as I see it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. So let's talk about something that is rather controversial, something that we were talking about before the interview. This temple has been the subject of graffiti before. Fill us in on that. What has happened in the past here?
I don't understand why we've had some graffiti, we've had some nasty things that have been written. For the most part, the temple has been left alone in Abilene. It amazes me when I talk to either my patients or friends that I meet that didn't even know. You mean there's a Jewish temple? I said, no, there's a Jewish synagogue. And I have to explain the difference because they see that. They don't even know it's 2020, and I run into people that don't even know that there's been a synagogue in Abilene, Texas since 1942. Has there been some discrimination? Yes. Has there been some significant desecration? Not really, but there's been some anti-Semitic things that have taken place. For the most part, I think it's because people don't even know we exist, is why we don't have what goes on in major cities or even in other cities in Texas.
How recent would you say the last attack was?
Probably about 20 years ago, as far as I can recollect, I think.
So nothing too recent?
Nothing too recent, no. Now, you know that what happened, but I guess a month ago, that they found that the terrible writing, the swastika and the racial epithet that was written on the side of a building. That's the most recent type of anti-Semitic and racial statements that were written. I don't even know if those people were ever caught. But for the most part, we don't have a lot of that in Abilene. I think it does exist, but I think it's underground.
What is it like being Jewish here in Abilene?
It's hard. It's easy for me because I'm what I am. Those who know me, and I'm smiling because I'm an in-your-face Jew.
Okay.
What that means is that I'm very proud of my religion. Very, very proud. I'm very proud of being Jewish. And I want people to be proud of their religion, whatever it is. I'm very happy that people have a passion for whatever their religion is. What's it like in Abilene? It's somewhat difficult because there is no real Jewish entity in Abilene. There are not a lot of us here. We have a good community and we're a tight community. We interact with each other, but we don't have a deli. We don't have a place where we can go, let's go for a nosh. You know what a nosh is, right? You know what a nosh is. Yeah. Let's go for a nosh, let's go do that. We don't have that. We don't have a bagel place. The only bagels we get is when our Cantor, Monica, brings bagels in from Fort Worth, and then we get some real bagels. That's what it's like. It's difficult in terms of traditional foods, and I remember there was a physician here at one point. This was years ago. Who was an Orthodox Jew.
Mm-hmm.
He used to leave on Friday afternoons and spend the weekend in Fort Worth or Dallas with family members because he was Orthodox, and that's the only place you could get Orthodox food. Bring his food back for the week, and then go back home.
That's amazing.
So, all the amenities that you guys take for granted,
Right.
we don't have. We don't have a place where you can sit down and just kibitz with Jewish stuff. It just doesn't exist in Abilene.
Now, earlier this year, or perhaps it was last year, you came to speak to my Rotary group, and you were telling us how at one point you became trained to become a lay rabbi.
Yes.
Tell us why you did that.
Well, okay. Initially, I started college, as going to be a rabbi.
Okay.
But after the first semester, I realized I don't want to do this anymore. For a number of personal reasons, which I'm not going to go into.
It's okay.
But I definitely wanted to be a learned Jew. So I went to, and when I went to college, I went to Temple University to get my bachelor's in psychology. But at night, I also went to Gratz College, which was a Hebrew college, and graduated from there. And I took courses in there that allowed me to be a lay rabbi because I never went to Hebrew Union College to be confirmed as a rabbi. I didn't do that. I didn't do 4 years. At Gratz, I did 3 years. So I was trained in that area, and I was learned and I studied, but I didn't follow the last 2 years in a Hebrew university that would allow me to become a rabbi. It's something I wanted to do, but it's also something I recognized with my personality. I don't think I would be a good rabbi.
You mentioned Monica earlier, and for our viewers at home, I believe we had Monica, the rabbi, who's in the Metroplex, right?
Fort Worth. And she's our Cantor, right?
Okay, the Cantor. Thank you for clarifying that.
She wants everybody to know that she's Monica Odesky's our Cantor, not our rabbi.
Cantor. So, but she does come to Abilene to help with worship services.
She comes, prior to the COVID, she comes once a month, and also on the high holidays, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and leads services as a cantor. And she's been trained. She graduated from Cantorial College, I guess, whatever, but from Boston.
Yeah.
Plus, she's an opera singer as well.
Yes.
She's a trained opera singer, and she's
recalling
performed over in Europe and performed all over the United States. So when she comes and does services and she sings, we got 2 for 1. We have an opera singer, we have a religious leader.
Well, so when she is not here, you do all the work.
Yeah,
I
lead the services.
You lead the services, and those take place on Friday evenings.
Yes, Friday nights.
Okay, that's really interesting. I come from First Central Presbyterian, and there are some board members as well that are from First Central. And anyway, during our confirmation process, we came here when we were like in the 5th grade or something like that. We came here to Temple Mizpah, and it was a Friday evening, and we got the chance to worship with you all. That was a really interesting experience. I would like, if it's okay with you, Mark, I would like to take a tour of Temple Mizpah.
Sure.
So show me, now we call this, as Presbyterians and as Christians, we call this the chancel area, but I'm sure there's a different term.
We call it the Bema.
The Bema. All right, so let's go to the Bema here and take a look at everything. So where would the Cantor be?
Well, Monica does it from here because She is also very, very learned in using all the equipment. So she has a microphone, and when I do it from there because that mic is the only one that works here. But she has her own mic that works, that's portable, and so she does it from this part, from this beamer right here.
Okay.
This is the basic beamer. So we have a typical service would be done from somebody right here, and they would look out, and they would conduct the service this way, looking out and watching the congregation. Like that. And then at parts of the service, of course, we have here the Shabbos candles. You know, these are lit Friday night, every Friday night.
Okay.
Before this is the first thing that's done to start the service. We light the candles. Now, what's interesting is that, and I think hopefully it's interesting to you, is that typically the Shabbos candles are lit by female.
Okay.
But if you are a single male,
Yes.
a single male, you can, and I do, is light the services, light the candles at your own house.
Okay.
But if you're in a relationship and there's a female there, she has to light the candles.
Interesting.
So for the last beaucoup years, I've been lighting the candles,
Well, that's very interesting.
and that's what starts the service.
And those are the Shabbos.
Yes.
Shabbos candles.
Which is Shabbos is one way of saying it. The other way is Shabbat.
Shabbat. And when you hear people say good Shabbat.
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos, what are they saying?
They're saying Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Because remember, all Jewish holidays start the evening before the day.
Okay.
So the holiday Shabbos starts Friday night and it's over Saturday night. Starts at sundown and it's over at sundown.
Interesting. How about this?
These are where the Torahs are.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
And we at the synagogue, which is amazing for a small shul like this, we have 3. And this is the shuls that covers the Torah.
If somebody wants to take a close-up of that, that would be good.
This is interesting. This is new to me. These are all been changed.
Oh, have they?
Yeah. These are new covers. And like that. And you see, this is the Torah scroll. You want to? It's like,
Someone can
I can't
come
open it
on
up.
and look right at what we're seeing here. So that is the Torah.
Yeah. This is the Torah. Yeah. Basically 5 books of Moses.
Okay.
Right here. And we have 3 of them. And of course, this is the Torah. That's the plate that covers it. And this is what's called the yad. Yad is another word for the hand, basically, because your fingers, your hand, as a human being, is not supposed to touch the Torah. So when you read the Torah, there's always lifted like that. The yad is the one that goes along like that when you're reading it. No, it's not like when you look like some people when they read a book, they'll go like this.
Yeah.
That's what we do with the yad.
So that keeps your place.
Yes.
As you're reading.
Now, there are 3 of them, obviously, as you can see. They all 3 came from Europe
Okay.
prior to the Holocaust.
Really?
They were, one of them I know is Czechoslovakian.
Okay.
One, I believe, is Hungarian or Bulgarian. And I don't know about where the 3rd is. But all 3 came from Europe prior to, and they were, I don't know if they were smuggled out or whatever, but for a synagogue this size, it's unheard of to have 3 magnificent Torahs like this, and they are magnificent.
Yes, I agree, they are.
They really
And how many of those comes out for a worship service?
Just one.
Just one,
Just
okay.
one. Except for, now you got me, I forget the name of the holiday. The holiday where Simchas Torah. The holiday of Simchas Torah, which means the joy for the Torah, is that all 3 of them come out.
Mhm.
And what we do, they used to, they don't do it anymore, but they would open the Torah scroll right on the ground. And the whole
On the
Torah
Bema?
No, right.
No.
No, because the Bema is not big enough for the whole congregation.
okay.
And everybody would get a chance to see the Torah. Rabbi Berger used to do that. It was pretty cool. I mean, in Philadelphia, I was very, very fortunate as a young kid. My mom was friends with the Hasidic rabbi.
Okay.
She worked at Gratz College. And I was able to go to some of the Hasidim services. And at 10 and 11 years old, before my bar mitzvah, he let me lift the Torahs and walk around with the Torah, which you're not supposed to do until you're 13 when you become a bar mitzvah, and then you become a man in Judaism. And then you have all the rights and privileges or whatever that is.
You mentioned Hasidism. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, you've seen them on television, you've seen them
Yes.
before. Usually it's a different sect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's supposedly, not supposedly, they're very, very joyful and joyous. And they have their own way of doing things. They see that the love of Judaism and the love of the Torah is to be joyful, not to be sorrowful, and not to be very unhappy. You joy, you be proud to be unhappy. And that's how they spend their time. And they spend most of their time studying, the Hasids, they're studying,
Yes.
and to honor the Torah.
And are they specifically localized in New York?
No,
Or is that kind of a misconception? That,
it's a misconception. You have them all over.
Right.
But primarily in New York, there's a large, and Dallas has a large Orthodox and Neo-Orthodox population, congregation in there. Dallas has a lot of different synagogues. I was very surprised when I got here. Fort Worth has a number of synagogues, but Dallas has a plethora, and the surrounding small towns. And you have, as I said, Orthodox and Neo-Orthodox. They say Neo-Orthodox usually are not quite as stringent
Yeah.
and dress differently. They may be dressed like you and I at different times, and they see the world in a different light. But the Hasidim are just joyful. People confuse the Hasidim with the payas, with the girls
Yes.
and all that, with some Orthodox people. Not all Orthodox Jews are Hasids, and not all Hasids are Orthodox.
Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
All right. So are you all Orthodox or progressive?
No, nobody's progressive. We are eclectic because you have Orthodox, conservative, and Reform. Primarily here, I would think the majority of people who are from Texas are more Reform. But those of us who came from other places, is that I was Orthodox. I was raised Orthodox until my grandma passed away, and then I became conservative. And then when I went out west, when I went to Albuquerque and Santa Fe, I became more Reform. But the Reform has changed because over the years, Reform has moved towards conservatism in terms of how they practice the Judaism. Because initially, when I just read up on this about 6 months ago, initially when the Reform first happened, is that they got rid of all the vestments of Judaism. You didn't have to wear talis, you didn't have to wear a yarmulke, you didn't do any of the service in Hebrew. Everything was in English or whatever the language, primarily German and English, and they introduced music into that. Now the Hasids have music all the time. I mean, they just have it. It's fun.
Yes.
But no, most of us here, I would say, the older ones. Oh, we're all old. It's a very old congregation.
Okay.
I'm one of the youngest. That'll tell you something. It's scary because we're not going to be around much longer. I will tell you that.
And you're saying that in all seriousness?
No seriousness. There's not a lot of young Jews that move in Abilene.
Right.
And if they are, they're not affiliated. I mean, I just found out there are three Jewish people, and I can't tell you who they are or where they work because they don't affiliate.
That's actually one of my last questions, but I'll ask it right now since you brought this up. How can AIC, the Abilene Interfaith Council, help? Because we would like to go ahead and share your website or any other online material in case people would like to know more about
Just
Temple
share it.
Mizpah. Okay.
Please feel free to share our website.
We want to help you.
We have, when I first got here in '83, I would come for high holiday services and it was standing room only.
Is that right?
There's about 150 people, maybe close to 200.
Right.
And what happened is that there was a larger Jewish population. The kids when they grew up, they left. Same things happened with some of my Christian friends. They told me the same thing. The kids don't want to stay in Abilene, and they leave. So when they leave, they don't develop families here, and the synagogue it's not repatriated, so to speak, or it's not replenished. Also back then, Dias had a huge huge Jewish segment. Ever since it became a volunteer service, all services, you don't have a lot of Jews join the military. Now, we always had somebody at Dias who was the Jewish representative. We don't even have that anymore, because even they don't affiliate. I think what's happening in Judaism, and I know what's happening here, just like what's happening in Christianity and all other religions, is that people are becoming less and less religious. They're doing less and less services. They think they don't need to be involved with God. They think they just need to be involved with their electronics.
And
I'm not a real happy camper about that, because as I said before, I believe in God, and I believe strongly in God. I think everybody needs to, regardless of what your religion is. And we're not finding that here. I think you're finding the same thing. It's very hard to get people to affiliate. You talk to people, some of my friends who are Catholic, they're having a difficult time getting affiliated. People that I never thought I would say this, but even people in Church of Christ are having difficulty getting people to affiliate. The young kids don't want to do it. It doesn't fit their needs, I've been told. And my patients, regardless of whether they're my patients or not, they're not very religious. It doesn't meet what they want out of life.
Before we leave the Bema, test my knowledge here. Is that called a menorah?
That's a menorah.
Okay.
Now, let me educate you. Mind if I educate you a little bit?
Please, that's why we're here.
And for Hanukkah, you know that Hanukkah, and that's a nonsense story, but that's the story that everybody goes about, the miracle of lights and all of that.
Yeah.
That's not, I'm not going to go into that, but that's not what Hanukkah really is. But everybody thinks that Hanukkah thing is a menorah. Not. That's called a Hanukkah.
Okay.
Because a Hanukkah, it has 8 and the shamash. The shamash is the big guy.
Okay.
And that's the one that lights all the other candles. That, as you can see, only has 7.
Yeah.
One candle for each day. That's a true menorah. The Hanukkah menorahs you see, count them, they all have 8 plus 1. That's called a Hanukkah. American Jews call it a menorah because they don't know enough, because they don't study enough anymore.
Let's take a look at the back of, again, synagogue, right?
Synagogue, yeah.
The
So
back
you
of
can
your
see all the
synagogue,
menorahs there,
there's-
so you can take
there's
a
some-
look. It's another one that's a typical menorah.
What are some of this banner and some of the names that are on these plaques? Explain what's going on back here.
It's basically the same thing that you saw up there, but it's like these are, it's the banner, of course, but what it is, it's supposed to cover the ark.
Okay.
So we have the wooden doors that open like that. This type of thing would cover it, and we'll push it aside and move it out to cover. It's also used as a banner and as a covering for it. And this is, of course, the 10 Commandments. In here.
And then the plaques that
These
we're
are
seeing over here?
This is what we call our yahrzeit. Yahrzeit is a memorial service.
Okay.
The yahrzeit plaques is that when somebody passes away and they want to honor. Let's see. Let me show you which one. I'll show you one that's important to me. Well, these are each one. This is you may have heard of these people, Seymour Beitzer, Gene Goltz, and Betty Jackson. So when Betty passed away in August of 2019. What happens during the month of August and the services, we name all the people that have passed away that month,
Okay.
and we say the Kaddish for them, the memorial Kaddish. And when we're in the synagogue, that light is lit for her, and we would go through this before services start, and everybody that passed away in August, that bulb would be lit, and her yahrzeit would be set specifically for the people that have passed away.
Okay. Do you mind if we go into this other room here?
Of course not.
Let's go on in here and tell us a little bit about what is in here. It looks kind of like a fellowship hall.
Okay, now remember, folks, synagogue was built in 1942.
Okay.
It was built by the soldiers from Camp Barclay. It wasn't called Dias then, it was Camp Barclay.
Mm-hmm.
It was built with the help of those couple rabbis, Methodist minister, Baptist minister, and one other minister that would help. And they raised enough funds and they built the synagogue in 3 months.
Really?
The synagogue was built in 3 months. What I was told is that Abilene went apoplectic because they never had so many Jews in one place. Remember, there wasn't a lot of people in Abilene in the first place. And all of a sudden, you got all these New Yorkers, you got all these Chicagoans, even some from Iowa and all of that. You got all these soldiers that came to Camp Barclay before they shipped out to go overseas. Mm-hmm. And so they realized that two churches here donated their space to have services for all the members, all the people, all the guys, mostly guys back then. It wasn't who were Jewish. And until finally, those three ministers and pastors and the rabbis got together and said we would like our own place. So in 3 months they built this. Now you see where it is right now. It's in the north side. When it was first built, I don't think there was a lot of homes around here.
Probably not.
I don't know, I don't have a picture of it, whatever, but this is this is the place where you could call it a fellowship hall, but this is where we have our Oneg Shabbat, which is the time after services we would get together and have food.
Okay.
And do that in here. Also,
And what is this?
when this was first built, and really up until the early mid-80s, this was the Hebrew school.
Really?
The kids were here, and they had the Hebrew teacher, and there were two members of the shul. That's a Yiddish term, a shul for synagogue. The two or three who were teachers, and they would have a Hebrew school here. Dave Bach, who was here for many, many years, was Lieutenant Colonel Dave Bach, was our lay Cantor, and he retired here from Dias, and he led our Hebrew school. And that's what you can see.
The classroom.
This was the classroom. Now that room we just built that when Monica started coming, because that's where she prepares and gets ready for her services.
And then I see back over
the
there,
kitchen.
you've got a kitchen.
Yeah, I'll show you the kitchen.
All right. I think I remember one time when we were here for confirmation class, we all had a little bit of wine. I think you were serving
Friday
wine,
night, yes.
and we were all like in the 5th grade, except for our associate pastor, of course.
Okay, now this, good.
Oh, here we go. That's a real.
This is a Hanukkah. Look at the
Hanukkah.
difference. See the difference?
Yes.
For each night of Hanukkah,
Mm-hmm.
and then you got the main candle right there. That's the Hanukkah. And these are candles up here. And this is, look at our stove.
Yes.
It still
very
works.
retro.
Very retro. Still works. I think it's 1942 if I'm not mistaken.
Now I see some pictures in here. These must be some very important religious leaders.
Yeah, these are all the rabbis.
Okay.
That's Monica right now.
Oh, yes.
Up there. Is that that? Oh, there it is.
But still, when people come to visit, they can see some of the
These are
past
the dates. You can
rabbis.
see that, yeah. This is Aaron Clausen. This is, see, that's what I was looking for. That's what the cover of the Torah used to be. I don't know where those three white ones came from, but they're very unique and different. That's the Torah. That's Aaron was our rabbi until 1995.
Okay.
And he came from 45 to 95. He was the rabbi here at Temple Mizpah. And then, then you could just take a look at all the ones that here. This is Murray Berger, was a rabbi until Monica came in here. Murray retired, and he's now living in Louisiana.
Now, you're a lay rabbi, but when you're done doing your work, will your picture go?
No, I'm a lay rabbi.
I'm only official.
I am not official.
Okay.
I am only official because the synagogue allows me to be official, and because I'm a learned, knowledgeable Jewish person who has graduated from Hebrew College, so
Right.
I can teach. I can have 2 services.
All right. Well, let's go back in here for just a moment. We're about to wrap up with everything.
When Betty Cohen was here, before she moved away, one of our most wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people. Betty used to be in charge of a watch post. Temple Mizpah watch post. That's what it means. The watch post, watchtower. That's what temple means. And that's what's really unique. And you think about it, in 1942, Temple Mizpah was put in the middle of nowhere. It's the watch post. It's the watchtower for all the Jews that were coming to Camp Barclay to pray before they went off to wherever they went off to. I think it's important in today's time to realize that I don't care what somebody's religion is. We're all one. People give God a different name. To me, God's a very important. Religion has always been important in my life. And if I had one wish that would be granted, there really would only be one religion, and that would be the religion of man. I know it sounds, I don't know, hokey sometimes or whatever. I think more people have died in the name of religion than should. Most of my friends are people, and whatever religion it is that I just wish we all, I just wish we could figure out a way to get along, because religion is so beautiful, it's supposed to unify us. For too many years, if you take a look at the history of war, every war, the underlying reason has been for religious purpose. Every war. Even World War I, World War II, and even you can look at Nam and you can look at Korea, there's always an underlying reason. So if I asked one thing I could do, is that we would have the Interfaith Council would be just one faith. I don't care, just one faith, and we could all get along.